Okay, so now we're looking at another example, and in this example, we're just applying the cash budget concepts that you were learning in the theory. Now, what I've done is I've taken example one and I've read it, and I'm not going to read this through as we go because we'll waste time on video. So just pause this video and just work through the question and make sure you understand the question, take notes of what bullet point number 2 is saying, number 3 is saying, and then so that you don't lose it. Now, what I'll start with is, you've got the yellow. I've created a template here. In the yellow, this is where we need to enter the value. So I've already entered some of the values to make it easier and faster. And then in the blue, we need to be entering formulas. So we will start with the number of registrations for BMW for 2018. We saw that was 137,973. So I entered that. And then the value for each sale, that was on note number 2, and it said is 350. So I'll enter 350. And then we come down to the sales value. Now in blue here, I need to put in a formula. So they've got 0.3% of sales of that 137. And then I'll move on to the blue where it says sales value. And what I need here is I need to multiply this 0.3 and multiply it by the number of car registrations and the value of the car. So I'll press equals, and then I'll open bracket, and then 0.3, I need to multiply that with the number of cars to estimate that number. I need this value to stay the same, so I will press F4, and then I will close that. Then this should be multiplied by 350, and so that will give us the sales value. You've got 144,683, and so I will drag it, and it comes there. And now you'll notice that it didn't work because I forgot to put the F4 on J4. So this happens. So just make sure you don't make the same mistake. So I will then drag this and then have it there. So it works now. And I've already filled in this variable expenses 60%, and I've already filled in 75 and 25 for your cash and credit sales. Now we move on to wages. Now wages, the question says on note number 5, it says it's 24,000. So I'll enter 24,000. For the value of the van, it's 40,000. I enter my 40,000. Heat and lights, I'll enter 12,500. And this is 23,500. Now a special note here for your assignment, you'll find that it might be useful to do the same. When you have values that are going to stay the same, just put them in a little box and in a little table, and then you can always use F4. If they do change, you can just come back and change them. So just a point there. Now, so I've put in the values there. Now I move on to the sales in a month. Now the sales in the first one, it says on note number 3 that 75% of them are cash sales and 25% are credit sales. And so I've put my 75 there, so I'll need to remember to put my F4 in my formula. And so I will take 75% of the sales value, so I'll say equals 75%. I do my F4 to stay the same for 75, multiply that by the sales value, and then I will drag it. And that gives me my sales value. For my credit sales, in the note again, it says that they start a month later. So I'm going to put 0 on here. I'm not going to put anything. And then I will take this and say this is equals to 25%. I press my F4, and then I'm going to multiply this with the sales value. And this is the sales value for January. That's going to be paid in February. So make sure you get that point. And so I will drag that. And that gives me that. And simply for this, I just need to do a sum. So I can just drag it. And that gives me my values. And then I move on to my variable expenses. And with my variable expenses, it says it's 60% of sales. So I'll say equals, and then 60%. I press my F4. I need to remember to do that all the time. Multiply that by the sales value. And then I press enter. Now I can drag it all the way. It gives me that value. My wages, it's 24,000. So I'll say equals. I need this to stay the same. So I'll click on there. And I did not put F4, so I'll press F4. And then when I drag it, it's going to be the same. And then my van, check, my van is 40,000, and that's only going to happen once, and that's going to be paid in January. And so that is equal to 40,000. And then I move on to heat and lighting, and this is paid quarterly. The question does say it is paid quarterly. So I will then go on to March there, and then I am going to say that is going to be equal to 12,500. And then I will go on to June, that's the next quarter, equals to 12,500. And then I will go on to September, that's the next one, that's equal to 12,500. And then the last one is in December, that's going to be equal to 12,500. And then other expenses, the other expenses are going to be every month. So I will say equals to that, and I need to remember my F4. I press enter, then I drag it along. And then gives me that. For my total payment, I've already put the formula there, so it's going to be the sum of that. So all I need to do is drag it along. But if you're doing it, you could just go equals. You could also type sum, select the sum, or you could use it by using the formula page. And then I'll select that. I need to close my brackets, and then that will then be the answer, and then I drag it. There we go. And then my net cash flow, what I had done for my net cash flow is I had already put my formula again. And as you know from your budgeting lecture, your cash out and your cash in, that's the net cash flow. So if I double click on that, you'll notice that total receipts minus the total payments, that's giving me my net cash flow. The question does say the opening balance is 0. And then, so the closing balance, we start with a negative on there. And then that then goes on to the opening balance for February. So my opening balance for February will be last month, that is January's value. So that is equal to that 65. And then my closing balance would be, just like this one, would be the net cash flow and the opening balance added together. So the formula is there already. All I need to do is drag it along. And then that one, I will drag it along. And so there you have it. You have the full workings. As you notice, it's quite long, isn't it? And just imagine if you're doing that with your hand. So that's why we have Excel, and Excel helps us to do this. And you might find that there might be things that you might do slightly different, or you do it in another way. But at the end of the day, just make sure that the objective is to get the budget and get it right. But don't forget your F4. And this is more or less of what you're going to be doing in your assignment. So again, like I said in the introduction, make sure that you know how to do this, because this is quite useful. Thank you for listening.